Hit it, sweetheart.
Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special Crusty Canuck. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Now, I guess if you haven't heard already, Mr. Bill Morneau has stepped down from his position as the finance minister of this beloved country we call Canada. I just watched a news conference on CTV. I'll add some links and some other proof of this wonderful news. But in the same sense, I kind of saw it coming. Didn't we all? Right? And I'll ask you, my viewers and listeners alike, to really take a look at his speech when he began to step down. Pardon my abbreviation there. Take a look at what he said and note his actions. Also note how he presented his body of work as if it was some kind of Picasso of the modern time. No, it wasn't. Okay? Sorry to see you go, Bill, but not sorry. Okay? Now, there's a lot of speculation on who's going to take over his position. People say Freeland. Some people say a Mark Carney. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that. Some other people say somebody handpicked from the Trudeau cabinet. I hope to God it's somebody who actually has some balls. And I'm not talking, literally. I mean figuratively. And someone who can actually decide to get the ball rolling when it comes to getting, money back in the Canadian taxpayers' pocket without them being taxpayers and paying off this debt on the 900 or so fucking million that was supposedly went to we, but didn't, and 41,000 that went to Bill, and he paid back, and then another 20 million here, and 5 billion missing here. So it's a shit show, folks. All the more reasons for us to call an election, I'd say. Now, I've said in episodes before, it doesn't seem economically feasible, nor does it seem logical. But in the same sense, it's either this, or somebody is going to do something very, very terrible. Whether it be somebody or someone's or persons, it's not turning out in the favor of the Canadian taxpayer. It's not turning out in favor of the Canadian worker. Right? With all the Carls and Karens out there telling people, where's your mask? Wash your hands. You kind of wish Paul Lynde would be reincarnated to have some zingers to say about this. You know what I mean? I, for one, am getting tired of this government. Okay? I'm not promoting violence. I'm not promoting riots in the streets. We've seen all that with the rail blockades, with the Canadian equivalents to the BLM, so-called oppressive league, the so-called marginalized and the so-called victims. Right? The real victims here are the Canadian taxpayer. Of all colors, of all creeds, of all faiths, of all sexual orientations and gender identities. Needless to say, the working class people of this country have had it up the chuff for a long time. And I'm not disappointed that Morneau is gone or going. I'm not disappointed that the Liberal government actually has to do some governing now. I'm still disappointed at the fact that the powers that be do not want to persecute and prosecute this even further. I'm disappointed at the fact that he's gotten away with it, that Justin's got away with it, Miss Freeland's gotten away with it. Well, Barbie the Builder, Miss Catherine McKenna, got away with it too. And I'm really, really sick and tired of the disingenuous politicians that call themselves leaders, when you and I both know, Crusty Canuck fans, that a lot of them couldn't lead a shit to a toilet. Right? And we also know, too, that regardless of how you feel about the Conservative Party, or Les Blocs, or the NDP, or the Greens, there is, thankfully, still a healthy opposition in there. to assist us Canucks to get the ball going to look even deeper. Right? But I remember a time in this country where you could stand for something and not be persecuted for it. I remember a time in this country where you could stand up to a politician and call him or her on their BS, and you got an answer. No one was screaming about misogyny or sexism or racism. This is just, I guess you can say, the icing on the cake. Now we're just waiting for that big old cherry to come up and make one big fucking mess. We all know Morneau lied about many assets, about his own tax breaks, yet persecuting small business owners as tax havens. He was all for the fact of Blabla's getting $12 million for their apparent freezers for the environment. We all know that he had investments in other countries. We all know he was a prime advocate for the carbon tax. And of course, like Miss Barbie at the time, didn't come up with a viable solution on how we have to fight this carbon catastrophe. And yet he holds a pension, the Morneau Chappelle. Now, ask your employer what kind of pension they have. Is it brought to you by Morneau Chappelle or a different company? So you know he's making money off the Canadian taxpayer. He came from a wealthy family, a wealthy bringing, a man of privilege, born into it, and then married into it, from Toronto Centre. Right? A small little riding compared to the rest of Canada. Right? And yet he's in charge of our currency. He's in charge of what we spend. Right? He had the audacity to sit there on television and say, oh, we brought 250,000 kids out of poverty. Really? How? Did you give them jobs? Or give them something to eat? He even had the audacity to dispute the same narrative about, oh, we brought 1 million people out of poverty. How? Were they 1 million Canadians? Or 1 million other interests? I ask you, my viewers, my listeners alike, I think it's time that we fight for an election. I think it's time that we fight to get things done. I think it's time that we look at these politicians and really start rallying and holding them accountable. And they've used the whole beer bug as an excuse. They have. They've used it as an excuse to justify ridiculous spending on something that Canada's never going to see again. Right? I have friends and family members who've had to pay ridiculous amounts of tax this year alone because of their decisions, myself and my wife included in that. Right? We've seen them take our guns away, or try to, or in the process thereof. I'm not giving up my guns, and neither should you. We've seen them lie about SNC-Lavalin. We've seen them lie about United Nations. We've seen them lie about the beer bug. We've seen them lie about the carbon footprint. We've seen them lie about building and infrastructure in this country. And yet he had the audacity to sit there as he was leaving the podium. We've done all these wonderful things. You've done wonderful things for your buddies in Toronto and Ottawa and your business interests. You haven't done wonderful things for me. You haven't done wonderful things for the Saugeen Nation. You haven't done wonderful things for the Haida or the people of the Northwest Territories, or the people of the Yukon. Done a lot for Quebec and, of course, the oil interests. Right? Done a lot for your buddies. Done a lot for Justin Trudeau. But, of course, Justin isn't around because he's taking a personal day again. Must be nice to make in 300 and change a year and to be able to go on holiday at leisure, especially when the country is in a crisis. And this country is in a crisis. Justin, Krista, Barbie, Bill, and Mr. Blair. Where are you clowns at? Right? You're so worried about the so-called marginalized and the misogyny and the protection of people. you forget that you're robbing the people. Okay? So, I am glad that Mr. Morneau, you're stepping down. And I won't be surprised if someone throws a banana at you, a piece of lettuce, a tomato, hell, even a fucking brick. Good goddamn riddance. And as someone who's thinking about getting into politics, right, and someone who's actually given me advice on how to be professional and to be courteous, as far as I'm concerned, your caucus, your party, your fellow liberals or liberals, your fellow wankers don't deserve it. Because you have blatantly insulted Canadians. You've talked down to us like we're morons. You've sidestepped every legitimate question when it came to the power of our dollar and what's going to happen in the economy. You've never gave us a frickin' balanced budget. Okay? Never have. And you've regurgitated the same talking points as Justin and as Krista and as Barbie and as the other crownies in there. Right? So do the math. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what your background is. I don't care who you know. It's obviously you're not considering what you know, and you obviously don't know much about Canada. Every democracy thrives and works on the backs of the middle class. And you have taken part in destroying a good part of that with your ideas. And you weren't helping the Canadian people. You weren't helping Ontario, bits and parts of it. You weren't helping Quebec, just bits and parts of it. Just your interests for the party, for this great big bid for the UN, or for your company, or for your wife's company. Okay? And your so-called boss and mentor and friend, Justin, he hasn't done a hard day's labor in his life. So what the fuck do you know about working? You represent a party that did mean something at one time, where you could be a liberal and live and let live. But you've also promoted the value of you agree with us or else. You walk our line or else. You agree with me or else. And that's not being a liberal or a conservative or an NDPer or a green aficionado. That's just being a dick. Right? I've dealt with all shapes and sizes in my terms of service. I have met wonderful soldiers, I've worked with wonderful soldiers, and I've met some dicks too. And guess what? They probably think I'm a dick as well. Well, that's life. I'm not losing any sleep over it. But I have members of my family, members of my community, friends I've had for a very, very long time, and they are worried about where their money is. These are people that have worked, not just handed something at 16 and then given something at 21 and then given a little pat in the head when they got a B average or an A average in the university courses. These are people that have worked the land, built homes, dug ditches, climbed hydro poles, fought the Taliban, fought the Al-Qaeda, right? Fought fires, fought criminals. And you have single-handedly, sir, questioned their futures and questioned their abilities and looked down on them like they're worthless. So happy retirement to you, Mr. Morneau. Right? Because we know you got caught. We knew you fucked up. This was inevitable. But your smoke and mirrors, I ain't buying it. And a lot of other Canadians aren't buying it either. Right? So farewell, bonne journée on your endeavors, on whatever sack you scratch, or wherever you slap and tickle. Right? And to the rest of the liberals out there who may be watching this, your days are coming too. This is not a threat. This isn't racist. This isn't sexist or misogynist. You're doing a terrible job. And we're calling on you. We are calling you all on it. Right? So bye-bye, Bill. Enjoy your tax-free lifestyle, because you made it that way. And don't be crying if someone throws a banana at you, or a piece of lettuce, or a tomato, or a brick. Right? You took us for a ride. Now, I didn't vote Liberals in the last couple of elections. In fact, I think I might have voted Liberal once in my youth, because I knew what you guys were all about. You've taken the Liberal band and turned it into a real joke. You're part of the reason why we're a laughing stock on the world stage. You're part of the reason why no one wants to invest in our country. You're part of the reason why a lot of us are going broke. So save your virtue signaling, save your teetotaling, go have a drink and have a good laugh. Tell yourself, I sure showed them. Because a lot of us are going to start showing you and your types and your party what this country is really made out of. All right? Good luck, Bill. Happy resignment. And go take a flying leap. Take care. If you like what you saw and heard, by all means, reach out to me. You can find me in the links in the description. Don't forget to subscribe and click that little bell to keep the algorithm going. Help us independent folk out. Thanks again for watching. And remember, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care, and I'll see you next time.